make sure you have a note-taking device. I am going to really encourage you to be a student of this webinar, and also I'm going to send the recording out this afternoon in a few short hours after this webinar ends. So you can only consume, hear, and comprehend about 10% of any given event. And my goal today is to teach you and to pour into you and not have this just be another webinar that you attend, right? And you walk away and don't take action. So there's two outcomes for today. I want to deliver amazing content, inspire you, talk about list building to freedom and how that changed my life this past 12 months. And then, of course, have you take action at the end so that you put something into action and don't just spend this time with me. So the goal is to speak for about 45 minutes and then open it up for Q&A. So that's the master class portion of it. Is I always love to open up for Q&A. So hold your questions until the end. And then we have a Q&A section that you can ask your questions under if you want to become familiar with what's going on. And then we have the chat as well. But again, please hold your questions, write them down as they come to you so you don't forget. And then when we get to that Q&A section, because the hope is I've got this content so awesome, right, that you'll be able to get what you need answered along the way. So again, if you're just joining us, make sure you have a notebook or some kind of note-taking device, turn off your phones, and stay focused to the best of your ability. So my name is Lois Kofi. If you don't know me, I'm the owner of Lois Kofi Enterprises. I'm a sales coach, podcaster, and really excited to talk to you today about what I call list building to freedom. And I hope nothing's in the way. If you do see something in the way or you can't hear me, of course, that's great to comment on that. So I want to make sure you guys can see the PowerPoint. So what is this list build of freedom? What is that all about? Freedom is a very powerful word. It's a big word. Freedom for me might be different for freedom for you. For me, last year, the pandemic, it was about freeing my mind from a lot of fear and overcoming is everything supposed to be pink? I hope that's a serious question. Do you see only pink on the screen? Sure, let me know. Only ask serious questions. I want to make sure. I'm going to share with you my story and how my paradigm shifted in a huge way last year. Freedom completely changed for me and my definition of that. And I'm actually going to take a story back further because there's some of you that maybe don't know my background. I was not a list builder a year ago. And actually, list building, painfully, could have been a part of my life a lot sooner. Okay. Back in 2006, I was in real estate and I thought I had it all. I thought I already had freedom. I had multiple six figures. I was building my dream $1 million home in Arizona. I was running a sales team, training them, had a mortgage company, had an investment firm that I just launched. And of course, as timing or fate would have it, divine providence, whatever you want to call it, that was like 6 months before the recession, the Great Recession. And I share this story because it relates so well with what happened for so many last year. And I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. And instead, because of the Great Recession and my overextendedness in the real estate arena, I lost everything. I went from the top highest of high to rock bottom lowest of lows, being homeless. And instead of being a millionaire by the time I was 30, I had my car repossessed the day before my 30th birthday. So I was left with a bicycle. And I was lucky I lived in Southern California at the time and I was a triathlete, but I didn't want to go to meetings on my bicycle. So until I figured out my stuff, my situation, my finances, I had to learn how to work from home. I had what I called a self-imposed pandemic, right? I had to figure out how to sell 100%, and I didn't have a list. So I like to call myself that phoenix that was rising from the ashes, but it still took me a really long period of time to be able to do that, or at least it felt like a lot of work. And the irony, and what does that have to do today besides the fact that I had a self-imposed pandemic and I wasn't able to make a lot of money. I was a face-to-face handshaking kind of gal, I didn't know how to sell on the internet. I didn't have a website. I didn't have an email list. All of these things, right? I had to learn how to do webinars, or actually back then it was teleseminars and it was Skype, because this was 2007. I wasn't using Facebook. Facebook was barely born then, and I wasn't using LinkedIn because again, I had business cards and I would go to networking events, and that was how I always did business. Can anybody relate to that? If you want to comment below, feel free if you could relate to that. And I really just wanted to make an impact in the world, right? I wanted to make an income while making an impact, and I felt lost. And I actually had this fork in the road. I had a mentor at the time. Some of you know him, actually, Eric Lofholm. Met him in 2007 when I was going through my stretch of homeless. I wasn't actually homeless. I was living on the kindness of friends. I could only afford internet and a prepaid cell phone, and then I actually eventually left that go and just had a landline. That's how bad it was for me. And so, if anybody has gone through financial challenges last year, I understand. I've been there. You've probably been there at one point in your time in your life, right? And my mentor said, "Hey, Lois, you should start building a list. Build a list. It can create great amount of income for you over time. And it's easier to sell from home if you have a list." And I was like, I don't know. I don't like that idea because I don't like email. At that time, I didn't really call it spam, but I felt like it was inauthentic, right? That was my judgment, my mindset. I'm going to talk about that today, how I shifted that. And then I had a client. One of my coaching clients was a copywriter. Again, it was like another sign from God, the universe. It was a copywriter who said, "Hey, I'm going to make lots and lots of money being an email guy. I'm going to write email copy and sales letters." And my mentor, his other coach at the time, was a millionaire in 2007 by building a list and emailing it. Instead of going to the bank or using his credit card, going into debt and going on a vacation, what he did was he actually would go to his ATM, his asset, his gold mine, his email list. And I don't know, I wish I wrote this down. I don't know how big his list was, guys, but here's what I do remember. He wrote one email. He sent it out with an offer, a sales offer. People bought, and guess how much money he made that day? Anyone want to venture a guess? One email, one offer. He made $10,000. So instead of going to the bank or grabbing a credit card and booking his trip, he took that 10 grand of income and went on a vacation. That was his definition of freedom. And still, this was back in 2007 when I heard this story, I was still too afraid. I was afraid that I'd be considered, a phony. I'd gone through this big failure. Zig Ziglar says, failure is an event, not a person. But I was so traumatized by that event that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take the path of least resistance. And I went, instead of the email list building way, which you can about imagine, after I tell you more of my story, you could be thinking I might be kicking myself. Everything happens for a reason. No regrets here, but I went the other path. I started a family. I went into fitness and nutrition, and I sold at a very high level, and I was still very successful. However, through that time, I was so devastated because I didn't listen to what my mentors and coaches were saying, and even my own client, that I manifested an autoimmune disease in my throat. And I had a journey of going through depression, anxiety, and panic attacks. And I don't know if you guys have studied the subconscious mind. I believe it wasn't really the recession and the homelessness that created that. It was my own fear, my addiction to fear, and my belief of the lies that I heard from other people in my life that were negative. But then also I allowed them to speak into me and have power over me and I was afraid to speak my truth. You know, Oprah here says, what I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have. So my hope today is to inspire you. If you haven't already built an email list, if you're not quite sure if that this is for you, I want to be that person that, my mentor and even my client, they were trying to get me to do this. I want to inspire you to take action, because in this new normal, this, whatever you want to call it, things aren't going to change to going back to quote unquote old normal anytime soon, right? So it's time to pivot. It's time for us to embrace new things, new ideas. And I believe you can speak your truth, be seen, be heard, be paid very well. I'm an example of that. I'm going to share with you my timeline of what's possible. And you could create freedom this year. Like, this year could be your turning point, comeback year. And an email list, for me, it's a list of relationships that allows me to speak to them one on one. Because again, Facebook and LinkedIn, not your CRM, not your email list, not even really your tribe, because I've seen people, millionaires, who had their accounts hacked or shut down at a moment's notice. And the only thing that saved them and their income was having an email list. An email list is the best way for your tribe to hear you and see you. And there is a best way that I have learned after stumbling and fumbling and going through a few mistakes along the way, that once you speak your truth to them, you give value. You can be like that gentleman I spoke about earlier who put out one email and made 10 grand. Now, I don't know about you, how many of you would like that? If you want to put that in the comments below, if you haven't already, please chime in. If you would like to have that ability to create that 10K one-time email. But where do you start? So first things first, a little bit more about my background, and some key things that I'm going to talk about today. And then I want to give you my timeline. I'm going through a lot of my timeline and my story because I want you to know that transparently, a year ago, I had no email list, no idea what I was doing. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have landing pages. I was at ground zero. And yet I had a foundation of hard work. I grew up on a farm in Iowa. I don't know if anybody here is from the Midwest, or if you grew up on a farm. You don't have to, you could be in California and have grown up on a farm. I had already read the 12-week year. I'm a certified trainer and teacher of that book. It's a New York Times best-selling book that talks about getting more done in 12 weeks than the average person does in 12 months. And I had some sales success. I was kind of capped, though, over the last 13 years. Without an email list, I couldn't hit 5 figures a month consistently, just being transparent with you. Okay? That's an important part of my story that you need to know, because I believe I am just 6 to 12 months ahead of most of you, maybe even 3 months ahead of you. Anybody, you should know this. If I can do what I've done this year, I think you could do it. And then, of course, on the right-hand side, that's a picture of my family. They've been part of my driving force, and I'm going to share more of that in the next slide. So I want to share my slides. I wanted to bring you to a different set of slides so that you can get a better understanding. And I want you to write this down and be closely paying attention to what I'm about to say, because this I want you to compress time frames. I want you, from this webinar, this masterclass today, to be able to accomplish what I did in much less time. So in January and February of last year, I had very much an person, face-to-face, belly-to-belly business. I was traveling all over the country, expanding actually my network marketing business. I was doing my coaching business kind of behind the scenes through my network marketing company, and then also my own client. My brother died in February before COVID, so I was also going through some loss and some grief. Then March happened, right? We had self-imposed pandemic. My kids are both March babies, so their birthdays were obliterated, completely changed. We had that going on. I had to be a homeschool teacher. My husband and I both now were working from home. We weren't used to that because one of us would always be out usually. My mom got sick, went into hospice. I was doing a lot of webinars. I spent thousands of dollars. You know, some of you might relate to some of this. And I wasn't making any money from really March, April, May, June. Total, maybe I made $2,000. Maybe made $2,000. And it was turning point at that time because my husband was off out of work starting in June. So guess what? Mama had to make some money. However, one of the things that saved me in transitioning into June and July, I had built an email list without knowing how to do it, kind of stumbling around in the dark, figuring it out on my own. I didn't have like a coach who was teaching me how to do it. I just kind of figured it out as I went, but I still got to 2,000 people from April to June. I gave value to that list every single week. I was afraid to sell or do any kind of offers. I did invite them to those webinars that I talked about. I nurtured with education and inspiration. Oh, by the way, my mom had died also. So I had even more of that going on. And I relate all of that to you because I know we all have a lot of life and death and experiences going on, especially in 2020, more than ever, because we all hit the wall and had to figure out how to pivot and how to be this new world. And what I learned from that process, one of my favorite speakers and guests on my podcast, actually, Rachel Hart, she said, change is always hard at first, messy in the middle, and spectacular on the end. Had I quit too soon, keep in mind, from March to June, I barely made $2,000. If I quit too soon, I would have missed out on that spectacular at the end and the transformation on the other side. So it was like books like The Compound Effect reminding me it's those daily habits that define your success on the back end. Consistency, daily, not trying to do all of these things. Granted, I did buy a lot of courses that I wasted money on trying to figure it out. And here was my biggest turning point. I hired a coach who is a specialist in online sales. I also hired my first virtual assistant who could take the busy work off of my plate. Okay. And my coach encouraged me to change things up a bit. I launched a podcast. I did a webinar with a much better offer at the end. And I had my first 4-figure month in July because I had a list and because I had a webinar and I was building my tribe. Keep going through that. I started doing recordings, different types of tiny offers. They're also known as different things, and they lead magnets. That may not mean anything to you, but evergreen courses that people could buy that I could put in my email list, just like that gentleman who made that 10 grand. I started doing joint venture. That's what JV stands for, and making inbox money. I created my own affiliate referral partners so they could bring me leads and referrals. Some of you might actually be here today because guess what? That's something I keep on doing to help me, pay for my referrals from my friends who are my part of my tribe. Best part, guys, was going back to why I call this list building to freedom. It's not so much about the money to me. It's about the mindset, freeing my mind, not having to worry about the money, but being able to take weekends off, enjoying my family, not sitting on my butt in front of a computer all day, every day. And it was the next month that I had my first 5-figure month in September. And it's kept going ever since then. Keeping in mind that was after those first few months where I was kind of lost and dazed and confused and not really knowing what I was doing. But it was my list building that brought me out on that spectacular other side. Now I've been able to give more money away, took a whole flipping week off at the end of the year, and I still made $5,000 on that break without doing anything but enjoying my family. So coming back full circle, that was the timeline that I did it in. And my hope is that you guys can do it much faster than I did. So I'm going to go back to how did I do it? What were my steps? And I'm so glad you asked, because that's what I want to go through with you guys now is my 4 steps. So hold on one second here. There we go. So I'll take you through this journey of my 4 steps. And this is when I looked back and reflected on how did I create that, 4-figure monthly income, then 5-figure, then multiple 5-figure early this year. And this is the 4 steps. Now, not ironically, I will tell you, I have been coaching thousands of people for 20 years, health, fitness, and business. I was a real estate sales trainer, lots of success. A lot of the principles that go into this webinar came from that foundation. But again, since I didn't have an email list, didn't know how to get into that mindset, I had to start somewhere. So we're going to talk about how to have the mindset of a sales champion. I call it spiritual sales, time management, creating leverage, balance, online lead generation, prospecting mastery, and following up with excellence so you can create that freedom or that fortune that you deserve, that you are definitely worthy of having. So step number 1, if you've ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross 1992 film with Alec Baldwin, the used car salesman, okay? So 2 things. Number 1, if you think about sales as this, I'm here to shift that paradigm for you. Sales is service. Sales is finding a need and filling it. The other thing is, if you think like I did back in 2007 and really the last 12 years before 2020, when I got religion and I pivoted and found that I fell in love with email list building. Where have you been all my life, right? I thought really negatively about email. I thought it was spam. I thought, oh, people are just going to unsubscribe. Who am I to send emails? I had all this garbage in my head. I thought of email as pushy, kind of like these guys. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. I sign up for Amazon. I sign up for these different programs, these points programs and Delta. And I get emails from them all the time about more or less happy things, right? Even though travel is kind of weird right now. And they're not even really my friend, right? So I pivoted from that fear, what I call scarcity-based thought process, and I came out of that on the other side, coming from a place of spiritual love, authenticity, playing at my highest and best version of myself, and knowing that I had value to give and I wasn't a spammy email marketer. So that's step number 1, because your thoughts are things, right? There's a master life coach who I mentioned earlier, Rachel Hart, and she talks about the think, feel, act cycle. If you've never heard of that, Google it. Think, feel, act. Same as this picture here from my 12-week year workshops. Your thoughts lead to your actions lead to your results, and then it rinses and repeats, right? And so a rising tide lifts all ships. When you think about it, rising thoughts and vibrations and beliefs raise the actions and increases probably the actions that you're willing to take. The results that you get will want you to take more action, because that's what you want, right? You want maybe more sales this year. If you have a goal of what you want to accomplish this year, do you want more sales? Do you want more money? Do you want more time off? Do you want better health? If you feel open to it, you don't have to put that in the chat. What are your goals this year? It all starts between the ears, and of course also connecting with your heart and your authenticity and what it is that you truly want, and believing that you deserve it. So then you go out and take action and get those results. I believe that you as entrepreneurs can be equipped to come from a spiritual, which is basically heart-centered love, not religious. It's all about being true to yourself and true to your clients, service-based. Then you can create limitless leads and sales online and even offline. Everything that I talk about today applies still to offline. And you can have that limitless life that I heard about 13 years ago, but didn't believe I deserved. Wasn't sure that I was worthy of that. I believe that once you understand that mindset, the world will see you and experience you as your authentic self, and you'll work smarter. You can make money while you sleep if you have the right email campaign, if you have the right messaging, if you have the right follow-up, all of the things that we're about to talk about. If you haven't read, this is one more like book referral that I'd give to you today. If you haven't already gotten it, get it. Not while you're on this call, but after. The Untethered Soul was also a book that I read last year that my coach referred to me. He actually referred the surrender experiment. And I chose to have that surrender mindset, recognizing that I didn't have all the answers. I needed my coach to help me, recognizing that I needed to learn something new. You can teach an older dog new tricks, right? Being humble, being open, and quieting the chatter of the mind. Not many people think that sales is spiritual, but I'm shifting that paradigm. Not many people come from that authentic space, and that's why people hate the word sales. But if you are reading books like this and listening to my message, my core message today is being and becoming your highest and best self, so you can do your best and receive the fruits of your labor much faster. And again, that's all part of the mindset and working smarter, not harder. So step number 2 is one of my favorite topics. I love getting more done in less time, hence why I got the 12-week year certification, right? And even the Untethered Soul helped shift my mindset to more of a spiritual sales component. And it's amazing what happens when you rise above and you come from a true loving space. Amazing things start opening up for you. Doors and partnerships and your dream customers start coming because you are showing up as you. So that can help you increase your sales results in less time. But the idea behind why are we all given the same 24 hours in a day, and yet there are people out there who seem to get more done than God, right? You've heard that phrase. I'm not trying to be offensive here, but why do people create more? Step number 1 is really the answer to that. There's no such thing as time management. It's choice management. And choice, and this may not be a word that some of you like, but I'm going to say it. Choices around your structured time and getting rid of annualized New Year's resolution type thinking and having a more focused thinking and spending of your time. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. This hour and 15 minutes that you're with me today, depending on how many questions we have, you can't get back, right? So that's why I say, please, take notes, ask questions, be present, get out of this, take action today. So you're not just here taking another hour of your life, right? So if you haven't read the 12-week year, I do encourage you to read that, because inside of it, he does talk about mindset. He talks about vision. He talks about, being wise with your choices. And he is one of my mentors. And so I really want to throw out a quick endorsement for him. But here's like the simplest way that I could break down, because there's always more than I can share in a short period of time. But here are my tips. You may want to write these down or take a screenshot. You can watch this back, second time. You might hear something differently. But in order to build my list from 0 to 2,000 and then 2,000 to 4,000, and then I'm roughly 5,000 right now. And granted, I don't necessarily need to grow it any bigger. A good sized list, oh, by the way, is 1,000 of quality people who want to be there. And you can have $1 million asset with quality 1,000 tribe members inside your email list. Okay, so that's a good benchmark. But guess what? It takes time, choice, use of time, to get those people on your list and in your list, not just your CRM, but actual email campaigns, right? So set a daily goal of how many leads you want every day. Is it 2? Is it 3? Like for the example I gave you, if you wanted 1,000 people in your list, and some may unsubscribe, and that's okay. Again, you don't want them there if they don't want to be there, right? They may not be your dream customer, so that's good. You want to have that goal and reverse engineer. So let's say you wanted to get to 1,000 people in your list in, well, I've helped people do it as fast as 3 days. I'll talk about that later, but it also, I'd say a realistic goal would be 300 a month for 3 months. Shoot for maybe 350 a month so you get that 1,000. There's 30 days in a month, you know, do the math, commit to whatever number feels good to you. I'm just throwing out the 1,000 because it's proof. Data, statistics have shown that that email list of 1,000 can be a $1 million lifetime, business lifetime asset. And like the guy who made the 10 grand in one email, he had to start somewhere. So don't stop until you get there. Set a goal of how much time it takes you. Is it an hour a day, a couple hours a week, 30 minutes a day for generating those leads? I don't know if Adil is here. He's one of my class attendees. He was able to create 147 leads in 5 days with my help. I gave him the tools, he did the work, and he knocked it out of the park. He had to take some time, and there's fast ways to do it. You could do a webinar like this. My first webinar last July that actually produced fruit, I asked JV partners to email their list, and I had over 100 people sign up for a webinar, and we had some closed sales that day because 40 plus people actually showed up. So what time of day is best for you? Which days of the week? Schedule also time to follow up. We'll talk about that at the end. How are you on email copywriting? You can go to fiverr.com. I've had clients do that and just have someone write a basic email campaign for 40 bucks. Doesn't have to be expensive. I did actually hire a copywriter, but that's a whole nother story. Schedule time for landing pages, lead magnets, free offers, content creation. That is something we're not going to delve into much today, but that is something I wanted you to be cognizant of, because remember those first 3 months where I just dripped on people? Education, inspiration, value, give value, give value. You know, the sales come later for sure. I could have had my sales faster had I had a coach at the time, but at least, at the very least, I built my list to 2,000. I gave value. I sent recordings of my webinars. I sent podcast episodes of health experts, wealth experts, and wisdom experts. That's the name of my podcast, if you haven't seen it already. Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. And that gave value. So my list was warmed up. Out of all of that, you know, what can you outsource? What can you delegate? I just want to remind you, I did have a virtual assistant that helped me with some of this. A lot of what I teach is very duplicatable, that a virtual assistant could do it for you. And of course, fiverr.com. And if you needed any other resources or referrals, I'd love to be your gal that can get you those resources. Ultimately, part of my definition of freedom is not working 7 days a week anymore. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirts. Not for me. I tried it on, didn't work. Life is short. We're here for a purpose. And even though I love what I do, don't get me wrong, I could coach and train, 7 days a week if I really, really wanted to. But there's so much more this abundant world has for us to experience. Your families love you. They want to see you sometime, right? I've taken way more vacations. I've taken way more time off. I turn my phone off now at 7 o'clock at night. Ask yourself, when something comes your way, does this fit my vision? Does this fit my laser beam focused freedom vision? Ask yourself if you feel overwhelmed, if you find yourself, your head is spinning, are you overcommitting? I care about that kind of stuff. So I ask you that question that you want to ask yourself. My head was spinning when the pandemic hit, and I had all of those things happening around me, life, death, homeschooling, and I saw what was possible with email campaigns because I have a lot of friends and mentors and coaches who make lots and lots of money, six figures a month, and a lot of it came from their email campaigns and creating value. So just know that even if you love what you do what you love, that's great. What if you could make even more money and take more time off? Ask yourself, do I have healthy boundaries? Do I check my email all the time? Am I spending too much time on Facebook? Then I will tell you your list probably won't build itself, right? You got to be intentional about it. Here's a great story. I have to share this. She's actually one of my clients that I started with pre-pandemic, but we pivoted together, and she took a lot of my principles and shared them with her sales team. Not only was she one of the top recruiters for Heartland last year, her sales team is rocking and rolling, and she bought her first home ever. For her, that was freedom. Step number 3, we're over halfway on the steps, guys, so get ready to ask your questions probably in the next 10 to 15 minutes, okay? So step number 3, all sales starts with lead generation, right? So even if you have a list, an email list, how are you getting them into your email list? And we won't talk about necessarily what those emails would say, but all sales start with getting that first lead and piquing someone's interest about your value, right? So what helped me, we're touching briefly on this because this right here could be a webinar in and of itself. And trust me, when I started this again, I didn't have a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel was really dusty. All of my old videos were from my fitness career days. And, I'm not selling fitness anymore, right? So I had to learn a lot. And at the same time, it didn't take much time. It just took time, meaning I had to be intentional with my time, blocking time out to make the content. How are you going to build an audience? Question is, how do you connect with your audience to pull them in to your list? So one of the ways that I do that with content is landing pages. Now, landing page is different from a website. And in fact, there's a webinar later today if anybody wants to hop on. It's actually 4 p.m. Pacific time. I have my lead landing page training guru doing a webinar at 4 p.m. Pacific. So if anybody ever wants to attend one of those, that's separate from what I'm going to train on now, but it's another tool for you. So just shoot me an email if you want to learn about that class at 4 or any other classes that I do teach on that. You've got to have some way to pull someone in. A website, if you went to my website right now, you'd get lost. There's way too many tabs, way too many options. Whereas a landing page, and I'm going to share one with you at the end of this call, it's holding people captive to you, to having the ability to say, hey, in exchange for your email address, here's a free book or a free ebook, a free PDF, a free webinar, a free downloadable booklet on whatever it is the topic. I have a CPA as a client. She has this beautiful bookkeeping checklist and a great email follow-up campaign. She collects their email, she gives them the gift, but it had to be something digital. It could even be a YouTube video series. I even had someone last year, I bought his $7 program, is about how to manifest money. And all his deliverable, his content, was 7 days worth of emails for $7. I was like, sure, I'll check it out. Why not? He had a couple videos in there. He had content. So that's what is one thing that's really important. You can't just have an email list. I do know one person that I'm still on their email list, and all they do is send inspirational quotes and their schedule of their webinars. And I'm like, that's not quite what I would think would be converting. So there is a best practice, and I have found for me and my clients the best ways to do that. So what are ways to create content? How can you be heard, make noise out there in this new online global world. I have clients in 20 different time zones now because of an email list and pivoting and being able to be seen, be heard, right? So whether you create a YouTube channel, these are just examples. I help my clients with a variety of these. Everybody's different. So you got to find your jam, right? But like this quote here, it says, no matter which one of these you use on the left, you want to be their favorite hello and hardest goodbye. You want them to, like Dale Carnegie, right? How to win friends and influence people. You want people to become raving fans. I mean, there's all sorts of books about, earning customers for life or referral partners for life. I'm going to talk about that next. So find something. Don't do all of these. Now, I will say, because I was failing forward and trying to figure out my journey, I did do almost everything here. I have a YouTube channel. I have a fan page. I've done webinars, joint venture, exchange of email campaigns and joint webinars and joint podcasts, blogging, ebook publishing, affiliate programs, podcasting, LinkedIn or Instagram. Create once though, guys. Create it once. You can create an email campaign and it lasts forever. You can create a landing page, it lasts forever. You can create an email, like that $7 example that I just gave you. I have clients who created things late last year that are still monetizing now. And that's the best part. You just keep making the money on the evergreen side of things. I had one of my clients, one of my favorite testimonials is a guy who had a YouTube channel. He doubled his subscribers during the pandemic. He doubled his videos, and he got the opportunity of a lifetime to be paid a lot of money to fly to the Maldives to do some meditation 1 hour a day. The rest of the time he could just chill on the ocean and meditate and do yoga on the beach. And that was from his YouTube channel, right? So what's possible for you? Anything is possible. Last step that we'll finish up here is taking massive action. These sales stats, some people have argued that, they don't always apply to every industry. I would argue, well, I've been in 3 different industries: real estate, fitness / nutrition products, and then network marketing. Pretty much all of these stats are true, no matter what. In real estate, maybe I had to follow up more, maybe more like 10 to 20 times. But again, you're not always going for the customer. You're always also going for the referrals, right? Like you guys on here today, you don't all need to become my customers, but I covet your referrals. My goal is to give you so much value that you say, Lois, wow, that was a great webinar. Next time I'm going to bring a friend. And ultimately, even if there was someone on here for the first time, my mindset is I got to give so much value and follow up. 80% of sales are made pretty much on that 5th to 12th contact. So that's why I teach all of my clients to have a minimum of 5 follow-up emails queued up and ready to go. Build it once, it's there forever, right? And then keep dripping, keep dripping. So how are you following up? Do you have email campaign software? I can help you with that if you don't. How are you staying visible and credible and keeping track of it? I have a free tracking prospecting sheet. Old school, I still believe in paper. Can't really see it, but that's my daily time blocking sheet. And then here is my lead. Can't see it very well, but my lead tracking sheet. So I use my tracking sheet so I don't forget something. It's pen to paper. If the phone goes off or if the kids are needing me, it's written down. What gets written down gets recorded. What gets recorded gets measured. What gets measured gets repeated or improved upon. And you have to have, most email campaign software comes with a CRM, which is a client relationship manager that reminds you, who's on what list, like who's on first, what's on second, who's in your, if you have multiple businesses, especially, or like me, I have multiple products. So I have about 40 landing pages. It's probably actually more than that. Coming from 0 1 year ago. Today I had 0. So if you don't have a CRM or email software, again, ask for me and I'd love to help you. So again, my philosophy is, you're way more profitable if you're getting referrals. And a lot of people leave a ton of money on the table if they're not asking for referrals. You got to earn that right? Not only do you want to give great value to earn the trust and the sale, especially with an email campaign. Everyone gets a lot of emails, right? So I teach all of my clients how to give so much value that people either they'll end up starting a file with your name on it because they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to miss that one, and or they'll delete it, and that's okay. That's okay. I used to be fearful of that, and now I'm like, hey, no's are no big deal. Unsubscribe's no big deal. You didn't read my email. Oh my gosh, I'm okay. I'll be okay. So if you create value, and I teach this is something I use before in real estate. I learned a story back when I was in my 20s, so 20 years ago. There was a story of a real estate broker, a company who was doing research, market research, testing a local subdivision, also known as a farm. If you think about sales farming, Jim Rohn would always say that, you're a farmer, not really a hunter. So you got to build the trust over time. And a farm is kind of like, this housing subdivision is what I'm talking about. This farm, it's kind of like your email list. And in this market research, they sent those big old direct mail postcards with a fictitious realtor, call him John Doe, with a picture of him with a sold sign with a couple in the neighborhood, market statistics the second week, another sold sign the third week, other information over week 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So one big picture postcard, direct mail piece once a week, fake guy, no phone calls, but the consistency over a compressed time frame of 8 weeks. At the end of that, they called on week 9. They called all the homeowners in that subdivision, and of those that answered and responded, 80% of them said they would work with John Doe. So email lists are not that much different. And I've experienced that. That's what helped me get to 4 figures a month and 5 figures a month, and is helping my clients increase their business much faster in a shorter period of time. So if you build an email campaign, you want to send it out. And in a perfect world, you send it out over 1 week. But if that's too much for you, do it over 4 weeks. Worst case, 8 weeks. So that'd be 1 a week. And or if you're like me, I usually like to send 5 emails over 5 days. It helps indoctrinate people into getting used to seeing me, and then they're getting used to opening. There's value. I have a very specialized campaign for those people. And ultimately, I do other things as well, like phone calls, inviting you to a webinar, giving value, inviting, and asking for the sale. And at the very end of that, 8 touches, I still send an email and I'll say, hey, if you were, just like I did when I was in real estate, I would say, hey, you don't have to buy or sell a home today, because that's for some people, that's a once every 5 years event, right? But I was always thinking, if you knew someone that was going to buy or sell, would you have me as your referral person? Same thing in my email list. Even if you didn't become a customer in those 5 days or 4 weeks or 8 weeks, I'm not attached to that. Remember, I'm coming from a place of service. I do, however, want those referrals, right? So you want to be seen as the expert. You want to ask for those referrals in your email campaign and build your list because of those referrals, and win friends and influence people. And be that person, be that resource, be that servant leader for that person who's probably hungry for inspiration and authentic conversations, which your emails can provide. And by doing that, guys, you do it with excellence, it'll come back to you tenfold. And I believe more than just money, but that time freedom that I believe 90% of Americans want. Here's one of my favorite testimonials, last story here. Kathy, I met her last March, actually, and she and I were both kind of figuring it out together. Landing pages, time use, all of the things, content. She was a classically trained best violinist in Mexico. If you need a musician, talk to Kathy, and a travel agent. So everything was shut down in Mexico, screeching halt. She could go back to the orchestra, didn't actually go back till December. And she really actually at that point was like, maybe I can retire, because she, with my help and these new concepts that I'm sharing with you today, she was able to almost quadruple her income between March to August, her pre-pandemic income, by becoming a digital musician with landing pages, a travel agent with landing pages. Again, she didn't have that before, not really. And she was able to start selling travel as early as August or September in a big way. Like, we're talking about multiple $1,000 packages. And it's because she took what I shared with her, or with you today, and she applied it in real time. She took action. So what I want to share with you guys today as my final thing before I open it up for Q&A is one way you could take action today is I do have a really, really amazing offer for you. And this list build course is my 3+ hours of do-it-yourself training to increase your email list by 100 or even 1,000%. Remember earlier I talked about you being able to have 1,000 people in your list as $1 million asset. You can build it as fast as 72 hours or 3 days. You probably have to cancel everything else in your calendar, but at the very least, you could increase it by 100 in 3 days, applying those principles. You can just go to my landing page, listbuildwithlois.com, and check that out. Some of you have purchased it. If you have any comments, drop it in the comments section. I'd be happy to hear from you. And then, of course, I had to, right? I have a 24-hour special for you for showing up here today. If you are on the recording, if you're watching the recording later, the timestamp would be 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Wednesday is the deadline for this 24-hour offer. So I have a $97 a month membership. And what I decided to do, number one, if you wanted to, it's a twofer. You can invite a spouse or a business partner. I need to know for sure that they really are a business partner with you in business. You get 3 hours a month of coaching on all of these 4 steps every week. You can attend live or the replay. It's all about mindset, building your 8x8 campaign, managing your time, using the 12-week year principles that I've been trained in, building an audience, that content, creating that vision ongoing for 2021. There's a private Facebook group. That's where the weekly coaching comes in. You get to network with like-minded people. And I don't normally do this, but I'm actually going to throw in a one-time discovery call, 45 minutes included. So that's incredible value. And instead of just 1 month, you get 3 months for $97. So you actually save 66%. And I'll throw in this list build course that I just talked about, this one, as a bonus for this one. Now, there's some of you out there who may already be in my $97 membership class, so I wanted to let you know that you can still qualify this. I'll just add the 2 bonus months on the end of what you're in, or if you would rather, because you saw my timeline, right? 3 months may not be enough. I have an annual membership, and you do the math. Normally it would be like $1,200 roughly. Like it's like $1,164 if you do 97 times 12. I'll give you a whole year if you do it in the next 24 hours, free $385. So that's 66% off. In addition to, you'll get everything that was on the previous slide, plus you get another hour. So 1 discovery call plus another full hour of coaching. And then you get additional perks and benefits. And don't forget, you can invite a friend or business partner inside of that and be able to have, more. And so if anybody has any questions about that, I'm going to pause here and see if there's any live questions that I can answer based on what I coached on today. Anything that wasn't clear. Anything that you would like me to answer, and I can actually take you off of mute. If you want to raise your hand, and you want to come off mute, I can have you on like a hot seat and coach you, or you can just type it in the chat. This is webinar format, so it's not the norm. Does anybody have any questions before I close with the final quote and story? Thanks, Leah. Okay, hold on one second. That's a great question. Cheryl asked, when does this program start? So this is my ongoing coaching subscription program. So you're never behind. In fact, I have tons of recorded modules. You can actually start wherever you want to start. I will let you decide if you want to start in April. You still have to sign up in the next 24 hours to get the discounts and stuff, but you can start April. I'm cool with that. Or if you're like, I'm in coach, let's go, I want to start, we can talk about, if you want to just retroactive. We've had 3 sessions already in March, so you could get those recordings. But again, keep in mind, that's why I offered the 66% off on the year-long program, because and I haven't offered that before, and I don't know when I'll offer it again. It's my reward for you guys. It's going to take you some time to build that list and apply all of the actions. So if you can do the year, it'd be fantastic. But you can always do the 97 and get the 3 months, and we can decide together which is the best start date for you. Okay, hold on. Got it. Okay, cool. So, and if you want, guys, I'll drop the link. Also, I'm going to answer Vanessa's question next, but I'll drop the, sorry, I thought I had it open. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you, so you can see the offer. And I have a promo code for those of that want to do the year-long deal. I have a promo code for you that I'm also going to need to give that to you, so you have that, so you can apply that in the next 24 hours. So I'll drop that link here shortly, but let me get to Vanessa's question. So, can you further explain more about copywriting emails? Okay, yeah, sometimes jargon isn't necessarily a good thing to use. So there are professionals out there who, for a living, like my client back in 2007, are official email copywriters. That's all they do, and they charge a good amount of money. I was paying $500 a month for my email copywriter. They wrote my welcome campaign, which, oh, by the way, I do sell that too. Let me think about this. If someone wanted to upgrade to the year-long program, I can throw that in there. It's just my welcome campaign series. It's essentially the 5 emails I talked about, the welcome, that you build it once and it's there forever. So copywriters helped write that for me. So that just means they're writing the copy. Copy is it's the words on paper. So I hope that answered your question, Vanessa. Did that make sense? If it didn't, let me know. Okay, Andrea has, okay, good. Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. Andrea, so I'm clear, someone like me who, yeah, because this is different from the program you're in, Andrea. You're in, I have other programs, guys, that are higher ticket. So you could always, if you wanted to jump on a discovery call to see if maybe you'd rather have some of those types of, because the live stream that I do in the $97 program or the $385 option is live streaming into a Facebook group. And it's kind of like this. You get to ask questions and I answer. I support you. And then throughout the week, there's a couple different times where I reply to answers or questions and help support you so that you're getting your questions answered. It's not exactly the same as my one-on-one coaching or the program that you're in, Andrea, but it's a great continuation of what you started with as well. So let me see what else. I hope that answered your question. So here's the link. And so Jess, I sent that to you. So keep in mind that link, I'm going to also email it out to everybody because there's a few people who couldn't make the live. That's the offer link, but it doesn't have the promo code. So if you want the $385 option, you'll need to shoot me an email so I can send you the promo code. So I'm just making a note here. Hold on a second. Bear with me. I'm just making sure between the Q&A and the chat. Should have brought my assistant on here. Okay, I got it. Kevin, promo code. Okay. Awesome. You're welcome, Jess and Andrea. Now Q&A. With the type of work I do, it sounds like it would be best for me to create an offer or come up with a freebie content. No. Actually, I'm so glad you asked that, Vanessa, because one of the things that I wish I could go back and again, no regrets, right? Because I didn't have a coach like me. And granted, I actually did it without even knowing I was doing it. But you want to build a list as fast as possible. Build it, give value, free information. You could do a Facebook Live and email it to your list. You could be on a podcast, somebody else's podcast, and email it to your list. You could have a quote of the week. You don't have to have your email campaign even figured out before you start building a list. Remember, I had 2,000 people in my list, Vanessa. And then, granted, I did a lot of webinars, right? I was just getting repetitions in, but it created a lot of content in my YouTube channel, gave me content to email out to my list. And then when I hit them with an offer, boom, like the best offer that made sense at that time, then I made that first 4-figure month. If I wouldn't have had the list, I built the list and the content, the free content at the same time. And had I had someone like me at the beginning, I would have made a lot more money a lot faster, I think, right? We can never turn back the hands of time. But that would be my goal for you. Build a list and the content, send it out to the list, get feedback, say, hey, list, what would you like to hear from me? This is what I do, right? They can help you build your content, Vanessa. That's the brilliance of that. Don't wait. That's the biggest mistake people make, right? That was my biggest challenge in my subconscious mind and my brain was, oh, I'm not worthy of having an email list. Who's going to listen to me? So I just bagged it, right? And 13 years later, whew, I'd be living in New Zealand already by now had I, not listened to my fears and held myself back. So build a list, share content. You'll knock it out of the park. You'll be surprised. Yes. You will want to do that simultaneously. Thanks, Holly. No problem. What other questions? I'm willing to go another 8 minutes, guys. Actually, another 10. Probably another 8. So you got me. What other questions do you guys have? Let me check. You're welcome. Any other questions? I'm gonna answer your question with a question first, Jess, just so I'm clear. Best way to warm up a list. Does that mean you have one that you haven't been connecting with? Okay, cool. And I've helped quite a few people do this as well. You could do a couple of things. You could go back to that list and say, hey, remember me, and have fun with it. You could even do a little video, because you're great at video, Jess, that's for sure. Videos are great, by the way. Don't make them too long and don't do them all the time, but you can tend to get more engagement that way too. But I would just send them an email and say, hey, I so sorry. Life, pandemic, right? Be authentic, be yourself, and just say, hey, I'm here for you. I'm starting up a new, you could call it something. You could call it a VIP email list, or Friends of Jess email list. I'm just making stuff up on the spot. Come up with like a legit, like a name, right? And have them opt in to this new list. And you'll segment it. This is the dormant list, folks, and then this is the new list. Have a landing page, have an opt-in, right? I talk about permission-based marketing. I have a 5-hour class at the end of the month that I'm doing again because so many people got so much out of it. But just have like a vision for it. Explain your vision, saying this is what you're going to expect or receive, and then have them opt in, and then start over, like clean slate. And then what I would do is actually send 3 emails to the old list, dormant list, I'll call it, just to see if they want to re-engage with you. And just basically say, hey, I'm going to educate you, I'm going to inspire you, or these tips. Come up with like a little mini almost business plan, like what is the purpose and the goal, the vision, share that with them. Give them some reasons why. Maybe even offer up a free gift if they opt in, like your book, or something that you could even create because you're pretty savvy. You could probably even create, you could even say, if you sign up for this list, you'll get XYZ, and that'll give them the call to action to come over and be in that list for you or with you. So that's what I would do. Still keep this other list, send the 3 options. In the last email, you'd say, last call, guys, you're never going to hear from me again, even though they probably will. You want to save that list. You can revisit them 6 months from now, but then go off and build this new list. Let's see here. Okay, I think I got all your, so the Q&A looks like none of those are open. Oh wait, never mind. Yes, Vanessa, that's right. Thanks for the reminder. If you want to be, let me see if I can drop it in here. Do you guys want me to drop the Zoom link in for the 4 p.m. Pacific time call? That's the landing page training that I have today. Would that be helpful if I drop the link in? I don't know for sure if that's the same email, Vanessa, the same link. So I'll drop it in. And just a reminder, I did drop in, for those of you who wanted it, my offer link for the $97 option, and then shoot me an email or ask me for the promo code. Or if you want the promo code and you're still here, just let me know and I'll drop it in. Just know that it expires tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific time. All right, so here is that time for probably one more question. Oh, hey, Kevin, you're still here. So not to confuse you guys, but there you go, Vanessa. That's for the 4 p.m. today. Just if you can save that, that'll be easier, faster, better, stronger. And then here's Kevin to answer your question. This is the link for the membership. Sure. The 4 p.m. one is right there. I did post that one. It's called Robert Meyer. He's my landing page trainer. He does a lot of training for my customers. So there you go, Eileen. Or are you thinking, if you want me to email you something, okay, I just resent it, Eileen. If you want me to email you something, shoot me an email. Okay, cool. Lois@loiscoffee.com. Shoot me an email if there's something that you wanted that you didn't quite get or you couldn't find it in the chat because the chat got kind of messy. And then if you guys know, you can click on the three dots. Okay, cool, Christy. And just because now there's fewer people on the call, here's the promo code is special, all caps, special, all caps. So you type that in because right now what it says on there for the annual, it says 777, but you put the promo code in and you'll get it for $385. One time only purchase. There won't be any recurring. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'd like to close really, really quickly with one of my quotes that I love so much, so much. And it's not really a story. I think I mentioned I was going to share a story at the end, but it's really important for you to, if you want to, you can go back and listen to my podcast that I did yesterday about being addicted to fear. And a lot of times fear holds us back from our best, highest and best self, our best income, our best health, time freedom. So if you have an extra minute or two, or actually it was actually 28 minutes, I'd love for you to actually go and listen to that podcast. Because Eleanor Roosevelt said it best, do one thing every day that scares you. And I know, actually, I don't know what you've been through in this past year. All I know is last year I could have been crippled by grief. I actually had my mom, my brother, and 2 friends committed suicide. I could have been crippled by grief. I could have thrown in the towel and just said, screw it. I could have done a lot of different things, right? And I had an awakening when I read that book, The Untethered Soul, in recognizing that I didn't want to be held hostage by my mind and the fear that was driving that. So one way I did that was every day I went out and I did one thing that scared me. And to be honest with you guys, it was building a list, because remember I said I felt like I was a phony, I was a failure. I made up all these reasons why, and I allowed fear to hold me back. I even manifested an autoimmune disease in my throat because I was afraid to speak my truth. And this past year, I've come down on my medication for my autoimmune disease. I know I'm going to go into remission. I'm speaking it. And it's because I built my list, being scared, moving forward in faith every day, believing in myself that I had value. So write that down. I have value. I have value to give, and know that what's out there that's seeking you, you're also seeking. And the only way that you can be seen and heard is to put that megaphone out there, face your fear, and do it every day, like Eleanor said, and you will grow yourself. And as you grow and expand, your freedom will come through your list and your tribe that loves you because you are worthy, and everyone is looking for you and your inspiration and what you have to offer. So on that note, I will end with just a reminder. I always like to end with, here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom. All right, guys. Bye-bye for now. Thanks so much for taking time and investing in your time with me today.